Hey, greetings, everybody. Now I have a quick question before we get into introductions. What would it look like if you took one of your 5-paragraph theme papers that you had to write in high school and turned it into a novel? Well, it would actually kind of look like Christmas. So let me explain what I'm talking about. This is the art of the ages. This is the how and the whys of writing. And I'm your host, Paul Lytle. So it is Christmas time, or darn close enough. This is actually going to be the last episode before Christmas. We are going to continue with the weekly episodes through the Christmas break. So please, day after Christmas, when either you are back at work like me, or you are just lounging around the house playing with all your new toys, don't forget, download the episode, jump over to YouTube, whatever you do to see this stuff. What am I talking about? Okay, do you remember these 5-paragraph themes from high school and in college, where they made you go through all this work. It's you do this introductory paragraph, and then you signpost your 3 points. You got 3 points, right? And that's what it's like. I'm going to prove this using point A, point B, point C. And then you do 3 paragraphs, one of each point. And then you do a concluding paragraph. And that way you got 5 paragraphs. You have your essay written. Everything is golden. Now, what happens when we turn that into a novel? Now, I'm being a little sarcastic saying that it looks like Christmas. But the reason I bring this up is because I've been thinking about Christmas, because it is Christmas. I watch a lot of Christmas movies during Christmas. I think about Christmas a lot. And I noticed this quite some time ago, that is the exact structure of Charles Dickens' classic work, A Christmas Carol. You have the introduction, where you have the establishment of the problem and what you're going to prove. Jacob Marley says what we're going to prove here. We're going to, basically make you a good person. And we're going to do that with 3 points. Ghost of Christmas past, Ghost of Christmas present, and the Ghost of Christmas yet to come. And then we, having those points signposted for us, we go into those points. And we see what they have to show us, and then we come to the conclusion where the main theme is returned to, and it's like, see, we have accomplished what we have set out to do. We have proven that you are a good person. And this is one of the most beloved stories in the history of the world. And it's like, I'm like, in college, I was an English and a political science major, and my political science teacher, because my high school teacher just I had the same teacher for my junior and senior year of high school, and I got papers just drilled into me. By the time I got to college, I could write a paper in my sleep. I mean, I was churning these out just really, really quickly, and it was always humorous to me. And this is why I write really quickly now, is because of the repetition of having very minimal time to figure out what you're going to write, figure out your points, and write it, put it on paper. And so I always cracked up in English classes, that we would have a paper announced, and it would be shorter than the papers I used to write in high school. And the next class period, people are complaining about how long it is, and I'm done with them. I wrote my outline, I wrote the rough draft, I have edited it, I am finished, and that always cracked me up a little bit. But this is what happens when you have a teacher that really pushes you. Any of you teachers out there, but so I did a couple of years of this, and I started being a political science major later in my college career. And so they were having us write a paper, and they would tell us, it was okay, now let's show you how to do a 5-paragraph theme. And the people in the class were not getting it, and I felt like I was just beyond that, and I got kind of annoyed that they were asking me to do this. But what can you do? And I even I look, and I know I was such a jerk at times. And this was one of those times. But I argued with a professor that about the structure of this paper. It's like, I don't want to do it this way. And he's like, well, you got to, because that's the way we're doing it. All right, fine, whatever. But this is something like I feel like I've grown out of as a writer. But then you have this very strict structure in a novel. It is one of the most beloved tales of all time. And it's been filmed, I don't know how many times. I mean, for goodness sakes, the Muppets performed this thing. By the way, it's a great version of the book. Probably my favorite. I just love the Muppets. But I've read this story several times. I watch a version of it nearly every year. It is a certified classic in every way, shape, or form. And I bring this up because I want to drill it out of our heads. This whole modern myth of the artist just letting the spirit flow and not having anything like really planned out or anything really structured, but you are stifling the creativity when you do that. And to that I say, look at Charles Dickens, and it's baloney. It's absolute baloney. It is the most structured novel that I can come up with, thinking about it right now. And it is magnificent. And so it was one of these things that I want us to do, is I want us to start questioning modernity and what the modern age tells us about being artists. Because a lot of times it doesn't line up with what of all of history has told us about being artists. And I hate to be the one that points this out, but with all of the stuff that's come out in the last 20 or so years, most of it is pretty much garbage. There are some exceptions. Yes. Okay. We don't need to get bogged down in that, but of all the great stories ever told, very few of them have been told in the last 50 years. Very few of them. And yet, us in the modern age will cast aspersions on the people of the past. It's like, well, they just, all that very constraining structure just stifles creativity. And yet we read Wordsworth now, and we don't read free verse poets. Most of us don't. I would say by most of us, 99.9% of us don't. It's something that you're supposed to like if you're hip, but you don't, because almost no one does. We still read Tennyson. We still read stuff like Beowulf and Dickens and all these greats that would embrace that kind of structure. And we don't typically read much that the modern age has produced, except for sheer goofy fun. And I like a good, just kind of goofy story that's doesn't have a lot of redeeming social value, but it's a lot of fun. A lot of fantasy novels are my favorite, and in science fiction and stuff. But you kind of look at even like the stuff that's really made an impact in the last 50 years, like comic books. My goodness, talk about structured. You have 22 pages and a set amount of space on each page to tell a story, and they do. And those things have made a massive influence. As much as we disparage them, the pulp novels have really kind of very structured word count to them, because they want it to land right about 250, 270 pages, and those have made a splash. So, as an author, as an artist, I don't want to shy away from this. It can be challenging in a very good way that forces you to really think through things. The other thing that I just really love about A Christmas Carol is that there's very little plot, and there's just a ton of character development, just a ton of it. We have plot in that we're seeing parts of Scrooge's life, especially in the past. But that's, that's like 1/3 of the book, right? We have the introduction, we have the exit in 1/3 of the book. The Ghost of Christmas Present. This is what the status quo is. This is the stuff you don't know about that's going on right now. And the Ghost of Future Left to Come is, look at all the people who are dead. There's not a ton of plot here, but the fascinating part about both, well, actually all three of the ghosts, now that I think about it, is that Scrooge is challenged to look at things that he already knows, at events in his life that he's already experienced, right? He's challenged to look at those events from someone else's eyes. And it's not the ghost saying, hey, these are all the things that are happening around here. No. Instead, you typically follow like one or two people in a scene. And you are invited, even though Scrooge is there, because Scrooge already knows that story. Scrooge is invited, and therefore, because we are following Scrooge, we are invited to look at it from this other person's point of view. And it's really fascinating how Scrooge's world is rocked by learning things that he already knows. That is some really, really great and powerful writing. And it makes me really just kind of dig in and look at point of view and how it affects a story, and being able to see things through different people's eyes and how that colors the scene differently. This thing I'm writing right now is, and I'm going to talk about that more next week, because it's an experiment for me, and I'm liking the way it's coming out, but I don't want to talk about it now. First of all, it's Christmas, but secondly, it's not done yet, and so I don't know if it's successful or not. But this thing I'm writing right now is, the experiment is to tell a story, but to keep the audience guessing as to what type of story it is based on whose point of view we're seeing at that moment. And there's 3 parts to the story. It's a short story, but there's 3 parts, and each one follows a character. And their points of view are radically different. Are radically different. So you get into part 2 and you're like, oh wait, this isn't the type of story I thought it was at all. And then the same with part 3. And so that's kind of the experiment. But that sort of thing is inspired by stuff that like Charles Dickens was doing. I want to be that type of writer that goes to what's ordinary and what's known and what we take for granted in our life, and just shift the camera a little bit. And in doing so, forces the audience to go, oh, And that's that feeling that Scrooge gets in A Christmas Carol. And that's the feeling I get every single time I read that book. Or every time, even the Muppets movie. I'm not ashamed to say that. I tear up every single time I watch it. I love the Muppets, but it's such an incredible story. And to see Scrooge get clarity on his own life just by seeing it through the eyes of others is magnificent and powerful. This is the power that Dickens had over the written word. There's a reason that he was one of the true greats. There's a reason that he was as popular as he was back then, and he's as popular as he is today, and why we watch the Christmas Carol every single Christmas. It's because of that. He's able to make you look at those things like that, and it's really a wonderful gift. So, Merry Christmas, everyone. I hope that you have a wonderful Christmas. I hope that you have a wonderful week. We will see you. We will see you very soon after Christmas. But God bless, and never, never, never stop telling each other stories.